Hey everyone, welcome back to the Soundbyte. My name is Andrew, and today we're going to be jumping into a bit of Metallica, but this time it's not going to be a actual music reaction. It's going to be a release review and reaction. It's actually the Metallica Load Box Set Deluxe Edition, a treasure trove of all the things that happened during the Load recordings. An absolute beast of a box set. Now, I've had previous box sets before from the previous re-releases that they've done over the last 5 or so years, I guess. I've got the Ride the Lightning, the Master of Puppets, Justice. Black Album was the last one, which was about 3 years ago now, I think. And now is the Load. At the time when I did the Black Album, I didn't actually realize, I didn't think that they would actually do the Load and Reload albums, because in all honesty, the remastering, I understand, but the Load and Reload production is just phenomenal as it is, even back then, and it still holds up very well. So I'm interested to hear what actually the remastered sounds like. Because I honestly don't know how they can improve on their production. It's just, I mean, as good as the Black Album is, it's obviously, perfect quality. But when I did the remaster of that, you could definitely tell there was a difference in the volume, and some of the clarity was a little bit sort of clearer as well. But the Load and Reload, I don't know. They just, production-wise, they just are perfect as it is. And I think a lot of people will agree with that as well. But today we're going to be looking into the box set, the treasure trove of everything that they've, basically just everything in the kitchen sink. It's literally on the box. I'll open this up now. Literally on the box it says the whole kitchen sink. So literally it's got like a whole bunch of stuff in there. So we're going to be taking a look at it right now. So this is the first time that I'm actually opening the actual box set itself. I actually received it the day before, but have not actually looked into it. So I'm doing it just for this video. So the box is actually the same as the other boxes as well. The black box, nice sort of leather-like sort of trimming. It's got the actual album cover at the front, just like it all the other ones have as well. It opens up like a folder. And then all the goodies are inside. So let's go through it one by one, starting with the Load album itself. The vinyl right there, amazing piece of work. Obviously the album cover itself done by I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Anton Corbin, I think his name is. A very sort of interesting artist who, if anyone knows the story behind this, initially when I first saw this cover, I thought it was some kind of like volcanic lava or something like that, but it's definitely not. For those who know the story, it's a combination of blood and semen, and yeah, it certainly blew some of us away when we first found that out. There was a lot of mystery behind the album as well when it was first came, like even the logos and stuff, and some people were a bit more switched on, I guess, but it was very intriguing as to what was going on with the whole thing, the artwork, the logos. It was all very different, although I didn't make the comparison with the music until later on, when I realized how much of an actual change it was. But then I kind of went back and forth with it and realized, okay, it's not that different when you consider like the sort of middle ground was the Black Album, and it kind of had a bit of that as well. So, but everything about it was very intriguing, definitely. So let's open up the actual vinyl itself. We'll go through the whole thing. So basically a lot of it is from the actual CD as well, as you can see. Same kind of pictures and stuff. Again, very sort of different, and kind of, I always thought it was quite dark and gothic looking, the way that they kind of appear, especially with, if you look at James Hetfield there, right there, and he's got that famous Metallica jacket that he's wearing as well, which is like I don't think anyone's actually got that. I think he's the only one that had that jacket, as far as I know anyway. But yeah, the whole thing kind of looked very kind of yeah, sort of like dark and gothic a little bit, so it was very cool. So obviously all the liner notes are inside. So you got your first piece of inserts right there. All kind of very Rorschach or whatever it is, with this sort of the tests you can do, the psychological tests and stuff. Again, I guess that kind of comes down to like the open sort of meaning of some of the songs and stuff. All had a bit of a theme to it, I guess, which a lot of Metallica albums obviously do. That's not exactly a new thing. So here you go, they've got the vinyl right here, the first one. Don't ask me about Standard Black. Don't ask me about like the different sort of versions of vinyl, like the speeds and all that kind of stuff. I have no idea. It's not something that I follow very much. I never actually got the original vinyl releases. I don't know if they even released them originally on vinyl, because back then in '96 when it was released, June 10th, 96, it was not a big thing with vinyls at that time. Vinyls were kind of dead, and CDs were kind of like starting to become like the big thing. So I don't know if the album was actually released on vinyl at the time. Let me know if you do know the story behind that. If Metallica did continue to do the vinyl releases even at that time. Okay, and then your second one right here. All the different pictures and stuff. Again, it's all the same pictures here for the most part. I remember these ones in the CD very much so. Kirk showing his tattoo, and Hetfield with that famous mullet. If you've seen my previous reaction with the 2x4 live from the Astoria in London, he was sporting the famous mullet then. For a lot of the recording of the album, he was having that sort of hairstyle, and Kirk still had the long hair. So I mean, the whole argument with like the short hair and all that stuff, they were recording and writing these albums with the long hair, with all the Black Album look, so it's not like they had an effect on them or anything like that. I think the whole thing was silly, to be honest, but and there's the second vinyl. So both of these, the album fits both onto the two vinyls there. I'd be interested to see, because I know in the box set there's a full version of The Outlaw Torn, which was edited by about 30 seconds or so because of manufacturing limits on the CD. So you only get like the somewhat shorter version, and they released the longer version in this box set. Now, is it on the vinyl? I don't know, and I'll find out. But it'll be interesting to see if it is on the vinyl and whether they've actually managed to squeeze it on there. Because as far as I remember, and I do have the CD, the Outlaw Torn full version was originally released on the Memory Remains single. So I actually heard this years and years ago, the full version. But I think to a lot of people, especially even today, that full version is new to them. And while it might not make a huge difference in your listening experience, I kind of feel that extra 30 seconds just and the way that it ends is just perfect. Not that it wasn't great before, but like the extra 30 seconds did make a difference. Just to listen to James Hetfield just play that solo all the way through, it was very, very cool. Okay, continuing on, we've got the Mama Said picture disc, which I've never seen before. I guess this was a original release as well, with 8 My Bitch live from the Irvine Meadows Amphitheater in Irvine, California, which there is a recording of this. I've heard tracks from that before, actually, like just bootleg recordings and things like that. And it's an amazing show as well. I think it was on the Lollapalooza tour, I believe, or something like that, I think. So that's the picture disc there. Because every box set they've had, there's always been picture disc single releases and stuff. Okay, so here we got the actual full show of the Lollapalooza Irvine show 96. Fantastic show. And the band were just absolutely on point on that particular night. I've seen clips and stuff like that from there. Look at that, this picture of Lars and Lemmy. So I guess Motorhead was on that show as well or something. I haven't read through the liner notes, but there you go. So again, coming back to what I said in the previous video about the in the 2x4 live reaction, that the band were kind of criticized for having sort of like that sort of grungy alternative sort of sound, and here we are with them with Motorhead. That was what their influences were. It was actually bands like Motorhead and stuff that was influencing this stuff. This album doesn't sound anything like Nirvana and Soundgarden. This is, like Motorhead and kind of things like that, you know. So that was what their real influences were. But yeah, I mean, I'll go through all that stuff as well. Just, you know, Jason Newsted, Kirk Hammett. Okay, so standard black. There you go. With the logo and the stuff there. So nothing interesting about the actual vinyl itself, as far as the physical look of it. So very, very cool. Metallica Lollapalooza 96. Looks like it's the full show, with the intro all the way up to Overkill. So obviously they jammed with Lemmy at the very last song there. Overkill obviously being a song that they put out on the Garage Inc. album. I believe the recordings are also on this actual box set as well. Basically everything that was to do with the Load sort of era, the recordings and stuff like that, all part of this box set by the looks of it. Because I did like a bunch of tracks as a rehearsal thing for the Lemmy's 50th birthday, and so at least 4 of those tracks were officially released on Garage Inc. And then there was a bunch of other ones that they did, like We Are the Crew or something like We Are the Road Crew. They basically just were just rehearsing for that show, and that's when they kind of came out on stage for his birthday and dressed up as Lemmy, and they played a whole bunch of songs and stuff. So it looked like a fun night. I don't know if that's part of this release as far as the video of that or anything like that. I'll have a look, but we'll find out. So here we got a bit of a card. It's a digital card. Every box set so far has got a digital version of it as well. So, but in all honesty, stick with the physical. It's way, way better. Here we got. It looks very there's a little scary guy there. It's developed over the years into like so many different things now, and it's kind of like a very cool version now that James has come up with. Okay, so we got like looks like lyric sheets. Again, something they've done in the previous box sets as well. Cartoon drawings of like the band and stuff in the meeting, and yeah, this is very cool to see, like different sort of just the notes, but also just the handwriting as well, because obviously these is copies, but like this, you can see the actual handwriting that they've used. Streamlines, all the different names of the songs that they originally were titled as in demo format. You know, Streamline is one that they called Wasting My Hate eventually. So yeah, that's a cool thing to actually see as well. Again, the ninja style logo, that was the one that threw me off when I first saw that. I didn't realize, stupid me, that it was actually the 4 M's in the circle. I saw the 1 M and I thought, what's the rest of it? And then didn't put it together. So one of those things that kind of just threw me off. But still, to this day, one of the best logos that they've got. I've actually got a tattoo of it on my arm as well. So we got some more sort of little like magazine top covers and stuff, because they're obviously on everything at the time. We got a white sheet here with looks like a poster. Okay, it's from a New Orleans show, so that looks pretty cool. And it's got all these bands on the show, like Soundgarden, funnily enough. All the bands there. Oh, there's Melvins. Oh, Kung Fu of China. A bit of a different sort of lineup. They were definitely doing a lot of different things at the time as far as like playing with certain bands and stuff. So they kind of that's where they started to kind of, you know, look outside of like their genre a little bit more, you know, as far as not just doing shows but just a bunch of other thrash metal bands, you know, which I know a lot of people kind of crave, but it's never been really their style, I think, to kind of just stick with the same thing over and over again. Okay, so moving on to the box set here, we got a book, and I'm guessing this is sort of just stories and notes and things of the Load recordings, and maybe the tour as well. Now keep in mind, obviously, they did the Load and Reload stuff all at the same time for the most part. I mean, there were certain things that weren't finished, because originally the Load and Reload albums were supposed to be a double recording, double release, and due to time constraints because of contract obligations with touring and stuff, I guess it was the Lollapalooza thing, they had to sort of come back later and finish Reload. So how they picked the track lists for Load and Reload is an interesting story. I think that I don't know much of. I do know that Reload wasn't really a leftover thing. I think there was actually some thought put into which songs needed to be on each album. Now, was that always going to be the case, or did they'd have to change that because of the separate release? I don't know, but I'd love to know that if anyone knows more about that, I'd love to know about it, and maybe it'll be in here in the book as well. So obviously Bob Rock was the producer of the recording, and yeah, it just basically looks like the next thing after the Black Album, which what it was, but like it wasn't such a drastic change that people actually thought, you know. They were still the same band, continuing on doing the same thing, or you know, as far as like the next album is concerned. Mike Fraser there on the mixing. The mixing and production stuff is just, I mean, as good as the Black Album was, Load just had a phenomenal sound. It's just I just don't understand how they could have remastered this and made it even better. In all honesty, I just don't know how. It sounds so good. Just a lot of different stuff in here, you know. A lot of cool pictures that we've never seen before. There's that, I believe that's the drum kit that Lars used on the Black Album tour. Possibly even the recording, I'm not sure. But that famous white Tama. And then obviously they did a few shows in between in the recordings. So there's them at the Arctic Circle, I guess, which we'll get into in a second. The video shoot of King Nothing. One of the last videos that I saw from that actual thing. So there you go. Cool recording, pictures. There's James in a Corrosion of Conformity t-shirt. The thing that I noticed as well, like in these pictures, was a lot of the cigar smoking, and it's interesting how you can see footage of James on the side stage on the current tour right now for 72 Seasons. He's smoking a lot of cigars, and people are kind of like, "Oh, he's smoking cigars now." It's like, no, he's been doing this for a long time. Long time. So this is nothing new again, you know. Again, I think it's just a lot of, you know, if you can invest a bit of time into looking into who the band is and the history and stuff, you'll actually find out that these guys, as much as they've changed in some ways, they're also just the same guys. You know what I mean? It's the same band. So, you know, people do change, but they don't change that much in some respect, you know. Okay, so now we're looking at the CD sort of component of the box set. So obviously we'll start off with the Load, which I've now got two of. So, but I won't probably play this one, I guess. Yeah, inside the and then the CD as well. I'll just see if the CD, because I remember the original CD had the Ninja Star logo emblazoned on the actual CD itself. So, and that is still the same. Okay, so that hasn't changed at all. Shadowcast discs 1 and 2. So you can see a closer picture there. There you go. These are, by the looks of it, sort of just riff tapes, demos, early workings of the songs. There's James Hetfield there with the So Fucking What guitar. Classic guitar that he's don't know if he still uses it now, certainly not live, but I don't know if he uses it for any other recordings, but I know that a lot of the guitars, if you see the pictures and video footage of them recording in the studio, especially in the control room and stuff, there's the guitars, all those old ones just sitting on the wall there, and James Hetfield does use some of them. I believe he used the More Beer one on a lot of the 72 Seasons recording. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he mentioned that in an interview. So which is very cool to see, you know. So another one, Shadowcast. This one has different takes and arrangements and rough mixes and things like that. So just a million different versions of all these songs. Some of them got different names like Dusty, Believe, Jack, Streamline, Boss, Moldy, FOBD, which ended up being Until It Sleeps, which was like the first single, I think, on the album when it was before it was released, I believe. Okay, so we got another Shadowcast CD, and just more riff tapes, more different versions, different mixes, a lot of vocal stuff. There's a lot of instrumental versions as well, so if you like hearing the songs without any other vocals and solos and stuff, that's definitely in here as well. So we go to the next one. Looks like here's a live record, Escape from the Studio 95, which is the little mini tour that they did during the recording. They did like 3 or 4 shows, and they were all uniquely different to each other. You know, they did that sort of pre-Donington show at the Astoria. They did the Donington 95. They did the Arctic Circle, and I think there was another show. Lemmy's birthday might have been part of that as well. But yeah, the band's been on record to say that these shows were some of the best shows I've ever done. And obviously a lot of people will disagree with that and say, well, you know, 89 Seattle and all this stuff. But like I said in the previous video, that's from a fan's perspective. But they were talking about from their own experience, some of these shows were some of the best. I know they've been on record saying that the Astoria show was the best show they've ever done. Granted, they did say that a number of years ago now. So, club shows and rehearsals. This looks like an interesting piece of artwork. Never seen that before. That's cool. But the cool thing about all this physical stuff is the artwork that they would put into here. It's just something that's just missing completely from all the digital versions and stuff. You're just not going to see this. So these are all live recordings, club shows and rehearsals. Okay, so these are all like sort of the smaller shows that they did in preparation for the tour. So Slim's in San Francisco, which I've been to. I've been to that venue. Very cool, very tiny venue. Things for the radio. So so there's all these sort of one-off kind of like recordings and stuff. Okay, so that's different. B-sides and rarities. So we've got okay, there's the Motorhead recordings there. King Nothing Tepid remix. They did a bunch of remix versions of some of these songs that ended up being on the singles. I remember hearing the King Nothing one. I remember hearing just different tracks and stuff. Mama Said radio edit, which I don't understand why Mama Said needed a radio edit for, because it wasn't really that long of a song. I don't know. Radio is a funny sort of thing. Studio shit and UK shenanigans. So I'm guessing this might be a video component. Possibly video footage. Yeah, it is. This is the DVD. Week and a Half in the Life of Metallica, Part 2 Castle Donington. Week and a Half in the Life of Metallica, Part 1 London. Okay, so I believe some of these footage might be from the original fan can that was released for the Med Club members back in I guess it would have been the late 90s. So I've actually seen some of this footage before. If you have if you're lucky enough to get that fan can, which was at the time, and I think probably more so now, a very, very rare release. They started doing these fan cans and ended up doing maybe 6 or 7 of them before they ended up stopping them, I think. I've got most of them. I didn't collect them from the beginning until about, I think, maybe the 3rd or 4th one. Then I started collecting them all initially, and then went back and kind of tracked a lot of the other ones that I couldn't find. I think I'm missing maybe 1 or 2, I think so. But if you can get them, they're a treasure trove. They're basically like a mini version of this box set of just different sort of things that they were putting out there, and different recordings and footage, and just all kinds of stuff. I remember there was a recording of the band for like an hour of just them just shooting the shit and messing around, jamming and riffing out and jamming on old songs, and and it just sounded like they were having just an absolute ball, and basically they were just wasting time in the studio, so which would have cost them a lot of money, I guess, at the time. Studio shit, November 95. rehearsals. Yeah, so this is going to be one of the highlights of this, I think, to actually see and visualize some of the stuff that's been happening during that era of the band. Polar Beach Party. So this is the one in the Arctic Circle. Wow, I can't believe they actually got a full recording of this. I've never seen any footage from this show ever, and they've got a full recording of it. This is the thing that I remember Lars saying years and years ago, that he's got just stuff stored away, like just all kinds of things that he's been collecting over the years, because, you know, like he said before, he's a Metallica fan first and foremost, you know, the number one Metallica fan, and he's just collected all this stuff over the years, and I guess to be, you know, released on some point in the future, you know, who knows, 30 years later, and, you know, here and now it's all coming out. So Poor Swedish Me 96. So this is obviously a live recording, video, so full show. The full shows are not as unique, I guess, because you can see a lot of this stuff on YouTube now, I guess, so, and probably for this show as well. But it's just good to see it officially being released, and obviously they would have cleaned it up and mixed it and all that kind of stuff. So, on air and TV appearances. Oh wow, okay. So they've obviously managed to get the rights to a lot of this stuff as well from all their TV appearances at the time. Now, the number one TV appearance that always sticks in my mind during this Load era is on the MTV Music Awards or Video Awards or something like that, where they actually got banned because they played. Oh, there you go, it's on here. King. They were supposed to play. They were supposed to play something. It says King Nothing and then Last Caress, So What. The last two were not supposed to be played. Whereas they're supposed to play another song. I can't remember now. I thought it was King Nothing, but apparently they got King Nothing on here. So they just played that song and then they just continued on. But that moment in time stands out for me. And you got to watch it if you can. There's clips of it on YouTube and stuff. And it's just them basically just putting a big finger to like everyone, saying, "No, we're going to be doing what we want." You know, I think it came about because they were told that they couldn't do something. I forget the actual story now. They weren't able to do something. They didn't like it, and they decided to just do this. And you can see it. They scrambled and tried to cut them out at the very end of the song and stuff because they didn't know what was going on. Obviously, didn't know the songs. So they just thought it was their song, and then they played So What, and that was kind of, interesting. I remember seeing that at that time and just like was blown away that they could do that. And that's one of the many moments that made me a huge fan. It was that kind of stuff, you know, so just absolutely loved it. So we've got Poor Touring Me 96 to 97. So I guess there's various sort of live recordings from that tour. Yeah, a lot of cool stuff there. Now I didn't see them on the 96-97 tour, but I did see them on the Reload tour, which is on 97-98. I saw them in 98, and that was my first time seeing them live, and was just blown away by how great they were. Yeah, I don't know what this one is. Poor Norwegian Me. Oh, from Oslo. Okay, there you go. This one's not a DVD. I think this is just a live CD recording. So I think the last one was as well. I don't know what this is. So you've got these cards here. And it's got all the sort of Rorschach sort of images on the back. And it's got the tracks on each one. Ronnie, Bleeding Me. Yeah, it's all on there. I'm not sure what these are. They look like playing cards, but they're not quite. So, yeah, that one's a mystery to me. I don't know exactly what these are supposed to be. But there you go. Okay, so we got all these guitar picks. I've got a stack of guitar picks from like the previous box sets, but also just from their live shows that I managed to catch from various gigs that I've been to. We've got a patch, the Flaming Skulls. Very cool. I remember this logo quite well, not logo, but you know, like an image or whatever that they used on the tour. We got some laminated passes. This is from the European tour. I said this in the previous box set as well, that I wasn't sure if these were the actual passes or just replications of them. It'd be cool if there were the actual parts and they were just left over. But I would probably guess maybe they're just replications. But it's still cool to see what they actually look like, though. So this is from the North American leg of the tour as well. So, and all that stuff is just, yeah, it's just a treasure trove of just lots of cool stuff. With all these great recordings, all these like cool, interesting stories and information about the release, the recording, the touring, what they were doing, what they were thinking, and all the kind of stuff that sort of went along with that era of the band during the 95, 96, and going into the sort of first half of 97, because I think the Load tour sort of ended sort of early part of 97. So yeah, it's an interesting and controversial era of the band. A lot of people still haven't gotten over it in terms of like the massive changes and stuff that they went through. But you know, you got to understand, like, this wasn't just an overnight thing. I mean, from the time that they did the Black Album in 91 to the initial sort of like start of the Load era, which is really 94, that's when they started actually writing the album. It's weird how to look back on it now and think that was such a long time, but now looking back on it, it's just 3 years, really, between those two eras. Not a lot of time, you know. These days 3 years just goes by really quick. And for the band as well, if you think back to what the band were doing 3 years ago, they were writing and recording 72 seasons, so which was their last album. Oh yeah, one more thing as well, which I forgot to show, and comes with every, it's sort of like a slip cover or something like that, I think. But there's the back of the Load Deluxe Box issue. I never know what to do with these things. It kind of just comes off the box, but it's basically just a summarizing of the entire contents. 1,839 minutes and 31 seconds of music. And I knew that the Black Album was going to be a big box set. I think this one definitely takes the cake as far as all the different there's more variances here, I kind of feel, you know, because they did a lot more as far as different things, you know. Again, part of what the band were doing at the time was trying to do different things and stuff, and not just stick with the same old. One of the things I love about the band is the fact that you never know what to expect. Now, at the time when Load came out in June of 96, I didn't actually realize how much of that change was happening. I kind of just took it as this is their next release. But yeah, keep in mind, I was not a huge Metallica fan. I was just sort of like a casual sort of fan. Liked the earlier albums. I liked Master of Puppets in particular, and the Black Album. But it took me a couple of years to realize, okay, there's something more about this band that I kind of gravitated towards. And I think a big part of that was seeing the Load and Reload stuff, because yeah, it made me realize just what a band can actually do, you know, and not be stuck in sort of this rigid sort of thinking and kind of exploring different things. Now, I totally understand why people would not like the music itself. Totally get that, because if you're not a hard rock fan and you kind of want that sort of more metal sort of sound, you're not really going to get it too much on the Load and Reload albums, because that's not what the band were going into. But as a hard rock fan, I absolutely loved it. Now, there have been arguments as well that it could have been a better release had it been sort of condensed into one release, because there seems to be a lot of filler material or whatever. I would somewhat agree with that. There's some stuff that I kind of feel could have just not been released. My counterpoint to that would be, I still want to hear all the stuff that, you know, is not released or shouldn't be released or whatever, because just the curiosity in me just wants to hear all that stuff, you know. So whether I like it is a different story, but I still want to hear it. And so I kind of like the idea of having all of it just being released, you know. With the Load recording, I kind of feel the songs were I guess more expanding on what they were sort of wanting to do. It wasn't just a change, it was just an involvement, a different sort of a process into the next evolution of the band. But I guess, you know, when you're a young kid or whatever, you don't really sort of think about that. You just want to sort of just listen to the music and just, you know, be kind of excited by it. So I think that's what people were let down by the Lloyd album, was because it didn't give them what they wanted to hear. So, but that's what I like about it. I don't want to be given something that I want to hear. I want to be given something that I've never heard before and then like it. So there's obviously a risk with that. So because obviously it's something that you've never heard before, there's a chance that you're not going to like it. And so that's unfortunately one of the sort of downfalls of doing something like a load kind of release, is that you're going to get a bunch of people that are not going to like it. So but that's part of the whole thing, you know, because at the end of the day, the band's got to do what they want to do, because otherwise it's kind of just selling yourself out, you know, so, and giving what the fans want to hear. That is it right there, the Load Deluxe Box Set. Absolutely love it. I'm going to sort of like dive more into it and listen to all the stuff and watch all the videos and stuff like that. It's not cheap. None of the box sets have been cheap, but that's part of the deal, you know. So you get all this cool stuff, and as part of the band's history. So anyway, there's my sort of review of the Load Deluxe Box Set. Thank you for tuning in as always, and please subscribe if you haven't. If you have, thank you very much, and thank you to those who've been continuing to support the channel. And I'll see you in the next video.